doing?
I think we are live right now. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining the chat tonight. I'm here with Na, who is a star rapper who has released an incredibly popular song. And I wanted to talk to you about so many things, Na. You're from Vietnam. You're from the city of Saigon, and you wrote a song. Tell me about the rap song that you put out in January this year.
Um, it's a straightforward attack against the communist government.
Hmm.
It goes by the name of four letters, DMCS, um, and then it's translated into English as "fuck communism." So yeah, and somehow it sparked a movement, a
It's
political
been
movement.
huge. I mean,
Yeah,
this your videos had over 1 million hits on there. It's just, I mean, it's completely blown up in Vietnam as well, and and a lot of people are using the hashtag DMCS as part of this movement that you seem to have created with this song.
yeah, yeah. People are using the four words as a way to express their anger against the communist government.
Yeah.
So
So tell me about why you wrote the song.
it's a really long story.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Uh, but I mean, you can say it dates all the way back into the whole history of Vietnam. That
Hmm.
that, that the Vietnamese people has been going through wars and wars and wars since the feudal age. You know, like way back in China, ancient China,
Hmm.
and I mean. And after that, then the Mongolian, and then the French, and then the fascist Japanese
Yeah.
and American, and again, um, we won, but we never really won. You know, the wars, we still struggle. The whole Vietnamese people still struggle through centuries, and I kind of carry that blood with me
Yeah.
as a true Vietnamese from Saigon. And
Well, I mean, it's an incredibly brave song that you've put out there. Vietnam is known for its censorship. It's known for its incredibly harsh treatment of anyone who speaks out against communism. And you've gone and created this song that's become incredibly popular. And it literally says, fuck communism. So, I mean, what sort of backlash have noticed since you released the song?
uh, a lot of pro-communist people inside the country now saying that I am a traitor because I speak up, I speak my opinion. And I mean, it's really crazy if you look at it from an American perspective, right? Like you voice your concerns against your government, and then you
Mhm.
are labeled as a traitor.
Right.
So I mean,
I mean,
it's a
how does that make you feel? I mean, do you feel yourself betrayed by that? Here you are writing a song that explicitly says, this is for all of you sheep in this country who are just following along. You know, we don't want 40 more years of this. You're basically trying to get the message out to those very people who seem to be attacking you. Does it hurt to see that the people you're trying to save and trying to educate about this aren't really getting the message?
well, I mean, it's like you try to help, you know, and they say that back to you. It kind of make you feel disappointed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you look at the big picture, it's not everybody is like that. Some people
Right.
realize the fact that, you know, like some people do their own research.
Yeah.
It's like I create a kind of thirst for the true history.
That's
So
right.
so people kind of so people kind of see this argument going on and they don't know who to believe in, so they start doing their own research.
Hmm.
And when they started doing their own research, they see that, oh, these are the facts that has been, you know, buried for a long time, and now I'm finding it now, and they're seeing it for themselves, and that will make them, you know, like have a clear understanding which is right and which is wrong,
Hmm.
you
I
know,
mean,
in the
what you've
whole
done
picture, you know.
is
So
incredibly courageous. Reaching out to people, speaking out when it's, you know, all sorts of freedom of speech is completely shut down by the Vietnamese government. And as we talked about, we sort of touched on this at the start. You've really sparked a movement with this. You were telling me some anecdotes before about people using the hashtag DMCS. Can you tell me some of the stories that you've heard about people who have been inspired by your own courage to speak out?
um, well, at first, a lot of people was scared. You know, a
Hmm.
lot of people was afraid. So they didn't dare to really say it like out loud using those for DMCS, but they would use a symbol of a zombie face. Because when I upload the song, I upload with a artwork of a zombie kind of guy.
Hmm.
You know, it's like wondering and searching for something. So they kind of use that kind of symbol
Hmm.
into making them into T-shirts and stuff, and and they start wearing those T-shirts around. And you know, the people who really know, they know when they see that T-shirt that they see that, oh, those guys, they share that same opinions of hating the system, hating the communist
Yeah.
system. So that's a way of people to realize who are on their side on the street. So they
So
would,
you're
you
really
know,
creating a community with this. I
yes,
mean, that's
yeah,
one of the tools that an oppressive regime, like the communist regime in Vietnam, use. They use intimidation and isolation. They make neighbors turn against neighbors, and they get people to report, you know, their loved ones to the authorities. They really use fear and intimidation as a powerful tool. But once you can create a sort of sense of solidarity or community, that starts to chip away at an otherwise incredibly oppressive regime. I mean, what you've done is something that it has been very hard to create in Vietnam. You've created this sense
well,
of community against
it's,
communism.
I cannot take that credit because it's actually not my idea.
Hmm.
I was just the one who write a song, you know,
Yeah.
and all the other idea, it was contributed by, you know, random people,
Of course, but
random
at the
fans.
same time, I mean, it does take a tremendous amount of courage to speak out publicly. And if you're going to put yourself out there as an artist who vehemently opposes a certain regime, I mean, you're taking a big risk doing that, and you're
For my
also
family,
lending,
yes.
well, yeah, but you're lending your courage to others to stand up as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, when I do this, there's a lot of fear going on in me as well,
Oh yeah.
because you know, at that time, you feel like you're feeling reckless. You're feeling like I have to do this, but also, you know, there's something holding you back.
Hmm.
I did it anyway. I was I'm the kind of guy that's just like, okay, screw it, I'm just gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
And but then after that, you know, my parents worried, you know, my whole, you know, family, my relatives and my friends
Yeah.
and everybody got spied on, you
Oh my
know.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, you're currently in Oklahoma at the moment studying.
yeah,
So
and I
you're,
believe that I might got spied on as well, you
oh,
know.
I can
Who knows?
imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
Now, what happens when your student visa expires and you go back to Vietnam, which is scheduled for the middle of next year, correct?
yeah. Unless I can extend that amount, but I mean, I kind of feel like right now, if I go back, it's gonna start a really big revolution. So I just have to, you know, have the right timing for
Yeah.
that.
Now, have
So
you tried to perhaps move to a different country? Are you worried about returning to Vietnam, and are you exploring
no.
other
I'm not
options?
worrying. I actually want to go back, but I have to go back at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's just all about timing. When I first released the song, it's also about timing. And
Yeah.
now I think is again about timing. If I go back too early or at at the wrong time with not the kind of environment that's suitable for me to going back,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be thrown in jail for in vain. Like I could not spark anything. But if I go back too late, I might miss the
Yeah.
whole window of time, the whole time window. So I just have to, wait and see how, the geopolitical environment played out and
Yeah. So,
to
I
make
mean,
the move.
what are your predictions for Vietnam? Do you see that that this regime can be overcome?
In near time, yeah. I mean, like we're winning on all aspects. Uh, I mean, economic, economically, people are switching to bitcoins. So
Yeah.
the Vietnamese dong is. I mean, people are now buying dollars and they buying bitcoins and they buying whatever.
Mm.
But I mean, the Vietnamese dong is losing its power a
Right.
lot. And because the Vietnamese dong is also really linked to the money of China, which is the yuan.
Mhm.
So it's the China economy right now is shaking. Is going down fast, and Chinese are buying bitcoins as well. A
Oh
lot of
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a
Just
lot of them.
recently, they had some announcements come out of China. We were talking about Bitcoin a little bit earlier, and I was saying that one of the main things that attracts me to Bitcoin is the sense of freedom that it gives back people. Once we can regain, control of our money supply, then we get a whole lot more control over our lives. So, do you see that Bitcoin could potentially be an important tool that the Vietnamese could use to reclaim some of that power?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But right now it's really hard to buy Bitcoin in Vietnam. You have to have certain connection. You have to know
Right.
certain people, and you have to be smart, in general
Yeah.
to buy Bitcoin in Vietnam. But people are buying it. People are setting up accounts in have friends in the US or in Australia or elsewhere setting up accounts for them so
Hmm.
they can start buying Bitcoins and investing in Bitcoins.
Right.
And um, I mean, Vietnamese people are really good at doing business, and if they know that Bitcoins have value, they'll find a way. Even
Yeah.
even the even Bitcoin was banned in Vietnam,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah, and it's even like in China. China is people are still allowed to trade and buy Bitcoins, but in Vietnam people are not allowed
Yeah.
as well. So, but people always find a way around, and it's starting. People are learning about it right
It's
now a
exciting.
lot.
I mean, I think that that's the main impediment that we have at the moment is that not enough people really understand Bitcoin enough to explore it. Once people see the true value that this currency can have by its decentralized nature, I think that we're going to see a very strong uptick. I mean, today we've seen a great rally over the past couple of days, which has been
Yeah,
very exciting for anyone holding Bitcoins.
true. Oh, and talking about the society at large. Um, I mean, the communist is losing in on the culture battlefield. Like
Hmm.
um, the kind of ideology of the communists has been outdated for such a long time. Everybody abandoned it already.
Yeah.
Russia and
I think
the
there are four countries left in the world that are
yeah.
communist now, and they're not they're not doing too
I
well.
mean,
So
even Cuba,
yeah,
Cuba is burning burning communist flags already.
yeah,
Freezing I mean, freeing their prisoners already, their
yeah.
political prisoners already. Now there's only now Vietnam and
Laos,
North Korea
North
and
Korea, yeah, and
yeah, there's
Vietnam.
only a few left, and the whole society, of the whole human society. They don't want no communism anymore.
Yeah. Now,
So
what do you say to people in Western nations who weren't brought up with the terror that communism brings, and who kind of, in their head, I mean, they're these ivory tower economists or philosophers who see communism as this great ideal where everyone shares and no one's greedy and everyone's on an equal playing
hmm,
field. I mean, what do you say to people like that who've never actually experienced the effects of communism or the terror of communism?
I think they're confused. They're just confused. I think that the optimal, I mean the harmonious society would be the opposite of communism. It would be like anarchism. It would be like anarcho-capitalism.
Yeah.
It would be like people um, are not controlled at all by
Right.
any
People
governments,
have freedom to
free
live
total
their
free
life.
market, yeah. But that will require the people to have a really good self-discipline.
Yeah, and take
Yeah.
responsibility. I mean, these days I look around and I see such a victim mentality in society. You know, no one wants to hold themselves accountable or to take responsibility for things. They want someone else to fix their problems. And I think once we can embed that sense of self responsibility and accountability into people's lives to make people feel proud about creating lives for themselves and not relying on other people. I think that that's going to be a turning point.
Then it goes down to education,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to, I mean, you have to educate a person, and I mean, not only just about information, but about other aspects of lives as well,
Mm-hmm.
like the spiritual life, and I mean other kind of knowledge that
Yeah.
is necessary. Because right now people are just focused on business and information and technology and all that stuff. They need to explore more in different aspects of
Right.
you know.
Now, you're currently living in Oklahoma. You're studying there and you've been there for 2 years. What sort of differences have you noticed in education between Vietnam and the United States? Do you worry about education in the United States as much as you probably dislike education in Vietnam? What have you noticed there?
Well, I don't know. Like a lot of people don't say that education sucks and stuff, but I mean they might take it for granted. But I really like education here at OSU. I mean I learned a lot. Like if you grow up in Vietnam, you basically don't have that kind of education, like
Right.
where you have freedom in thinking.
Hmm.
Like in Vietnam we don't have freedom in thinking, and how can you learn in that kind of education? Like you being forced to think in a particular way. You're not being able to be creative in your thought.
Hmm.
So when I got here at OSU, for the first time I start liking to go to school. You know, I, I I never really liked to go to school way back in Vietnam. It
But I
was
mean,
it
you're
was
studying entrepreneurship, right? So you're really in a discipline where you're encouraged to think outside the box and
Yeah.
take responsibility and all of that. I mean, there are a lot of critics for the education system in the United States because they see a trend towards becoming more dogmatic, to becoming more centralized. You know, a single federal bureau that is dictating what should be learned in schools. I
Right.
mean, that's exactly the kind of brainwashing that you would rally against in Vietnam. Like, what sort of brainwashing did you notice when you were in Vietnam? You talked about that earlier. That people in schools there, they're all brainwashed. They don't understand what's going on, and suddenly they're finding out new facts and being encouraged to explore. What things are they being told over there?
Everything in Vietnam is very one-sided.
Hmm.
Like every media channel, or every educational book, or every historical book, or anything is all about praising the Communist Party. And and praising Ho Chi Minh.
Right.
It's like it's crazy. Like when I start looking back at it, I mean, like, God damn it, it's like it's like that moment when you realize that, hey, that was the dream world and this is the real world. Like
Like the
you know,
shadows on the cave, and suddenly you're seeing the the real images.
yeah, that kind of thing. It's just crazy when you look at how you have been brainwashed, and now it's like looking at a total different person.
Right.
Like but then at the same time, it make you relate to the struggle of other people. Like there are kids who growing up without internet, without education, and and
Right.
and that's all they see all their life. So how can they have another perspective of uh you know
Exactly.
judging the government in another lenses?
Yeah, it's all about opening up the discussion and educating people and giving people information so that they can find out what the facts are for themselves. I mean, when did this change come for you? Was it when you came to the United States that you started to change your mind about communism, or was it earlier than that?
It's a slow process. I first have a little, like, seeing behind the veil when I was in grade 9.
Hmm.
I was just a little kid, and I have a good friend, um, and she know how to hack into firewalls and stuff. She know
Hmm.
how to climb firewalls and stuff, and she did that thing on my computer so that I can go to other websites that are banned by the government and read about information about Ho Chi Minh and the war
Right.
crimes of communism and stuff like that. But at that time it was more of like a fantasy. It's like a more of a fairy tales to me, because
Yeah.
it's basically go against everything I've been taught for my whole life until that point, for like 14 years.
So it was hard for you to believe what you read on the internet.
Well, I was shocked, I was shocked, and then I kind of going through that phase that a lot of kids are going through right now in Vietnam, that where you're like, what? How can this be true? Like, and then you have to think really hard about it, and then
Hmm.
it make you always have this kind of cognitive dissonance when you interact with society.
Yeah.
You become like, okay, so I heard my dad kind of, my dad kind of diss the government, and he's kind of like, the government is bad. All they do is just steal away from the people, and this kind of aligned with the story I read on the internet.
Hmm.
So is that true, or should I go ask people about this? But if it's true, and I ask people about this, can they report to the police?
Exactly
I mean,
right. Yeah.
you
How
know
do you find out information when your every movement is being watched and when it's a crime to say anything that's
yeah,
against the
it's a
government?
crime to it's so funny when I heard stories, like a girl, she paint her nails with a white, I mean, no, yellow background, and three of the red stripe that represent the old flag of Vietnam, of
Hmm.
the South Vietnam. And then just because of that nail, she got arrested. You know,
Oh my
just because that
gosh.
that little nail art. I was like,
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean, there
like,
are so many
wow.
political prisoners. There are so many people who've been locked away because they've broken speech laws there. And there are people who, are dying in prison. Um, and, the deaths not being investigated. And it's just, it's a scary place to be if you want to start questioning the government. And so it was a long process for you coming to terms with these ideas and getting that information.
I mean,
Uh,
the problem about, I want to emphasize right here. Sorry for
No,
interrupting
no,
you,
no,
but
no. Go ahead.
the fact of going to jail is not the most fearful thing. What happening inside jail is more fearful. You know, there's so many cases of people dying in jail. People die daily in jail in
Yeah.
Vietnam, and nobody report about that. Like, not only in jail but in police station,
Yeah.
where they just got arrested and being
Mm.
and interrogated, and the police was so drunk, or they just want something to beat on, they just beat the kids and he died. And so many cases happen like that to even some of the people that I know. Some of my friends
Oh my
go through
goodness.
that, and I almost go through that as well when I was in Vietnam. Because if you show them attitude, if you act a little cocky in
Right.
front of them, ask some questions and stuff, not giving them bribes and stuff, they will create troubles for you.
And you
You know
talk
that.
about that in your song. You talk about not perpetuating this system of, you have so many people in Vietnam who say they don't like all the bribes, they don't like all the corruption, and yet they're perpetuating the system by paying bribes themselves. So you
Yeah,
talked about just stopping the cycle and stopping it with you and not paying any more
but it's
bribes.
but it's gonna require a lot of courage
Oh,
to
yeah.
do that. You
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I have to admit, nah, I am terrified for you. And going back to Vietnam, I mean, do you think about that? Do you think about what might happen when you re-enter and the consequences of putting out something that is so openly against the government?
Um, well, I think that the government might not, because if they throw me in jail right now, they're just gonna make this movement more famous.
So you
So
would say, I mean,
so
does that
I
mean that you would be willing to martyr yourself to go back there? And I mean, you've done so much already to encourage people that wouldn't it make more sense? I mean, I have to admit, I admire your courage. It's incredible that you want to go back if you could help the movement, if that would help spark a revolution. But I do fear for your safety. Would you ever consider becoming a part of that movement, but from some sort of place of asylum, maybe seeing if you could stay in the US or perhaps going to a different country.
well, I'll have to think about that. But I mean, if there's a point that all else fail and I have to go back, then I have to go back.
Okay.
Because I like to just I'm the kind of guy who just like to finish what I start. So because okay, so it happened that way, and you know that if you don't go back, it's not right. It's not something not right, right there. So you just have to, okay, accept it. Because but then I mean, going back doesn't seem all that bad, because when I look at it, I kind of feel like if they throw me in jail right now, they will just create a bigger movement. People will just rally more.
Right.
And the thing they would do more about they would do more about like a background kind of mafia style.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they can arrange some kind of beating up or some kind of, you know well, let's not discuss this kind of part right here, but I'm still working on it in my
Yeah.
mind. But um
I mean, I have to say
I
you're
have so much
incredibly,
connection. I have
yeah.
so much connection in the underground of Vietnam that I don't have to really fear about that if they really do that. So
Well, you're incredibly courageous, Nah. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to have been brought up in a country like that and now to be in a position where you're speaking out publicly and having to perhaps face going back there. And I said this to you early, but you're a total badass. Like this rapper who writes this song, "Fuck Communism," and you're just like, "Fuck him, don't give a shit. I hope that everyone joins the cause." I mean, it's just like you're incredible. What you've done is incredibly brave.
well, I mean, I'm not that brave because I write that song when I'm already here. I write that
Oh,
song when
even being here, I mean, how many other Vietnamese people came to America and didn't write a song and just said, okay, well, the people back in Vietnam, they're dealing with what's back in Vietnam. I'm in the States, not even going to think about it anymore. I mean, you came back and you basically started a movement.
um I want to emphasize this fact that there are kids in Vietnam who walk around the street with a DMCS for communism tattoo on their neck. So I mean,
That's,
those
oh my
kids are
gosh.
the real courageous one,
Oh,
'cause,
wow.
yeah, because they're like representing me, like,
Yeah.
and not only representing me, but representing the whole kind of people from Vietnamese from California to Australia to any refugees who have been driven out of Vietnam when the communists
Mhm.
came in. And I mean, these kids, those kids walking around with tattoos on their neck saying fuck communism, they are representing the whole historical movement.
Yeah.
And they face real threats of being beat up by the police, beat up by thugs who are hired by the police. And they they are facing the future of having no future.
Yeah.
Kind of, when you do that kind of stuff, it's like,
I mean, there's something that,
you don't know what happened to you the next day. You leave every day
right.
like it's your last,
Yeah. I
and
mean, there's something about music that is inspiring in that way. It's transformative. It can give you courage. It can make you want to become something, part of something bigger. I asked you earlier if you'd seen the film Straight Outta Compton, which is about the beginnings of Dr. Dre and the beginnings of rap music that spoke out about police brutality, fuck the police and all of that. And I mean, they really sparked a movement. They got people talking about this. They got people talking about police brutality. And it began with them and the music, and people wanted to join the movement and join the conversation about police brutality because of the music, because that was something that brought them together. And I feel that, I mean, you're doing the same thing in Vietnam. You're doing the same thing against communism. You're bringing people together to discuss this issue, and they haven't really been given a public voice before, or something to unify them.
um I I think I'm more lucky than Dr. Dre and NWA, because I'm born in the we live in the time that we have internet. So the internet make it easier, really much easier for us to organize and
Mm-hmm.
to create a community. Well, back then Dr. Dre and his crew was more of like a real street kind of. They have to do it like live, like in
Mm-hmm.
real. So
But I
I just kind of
mean,
look up to them a lot. I mean, when you
yeah.
compare to me against Dr. Dre, and I was like, wow, I'm being compared to my idols right now. Wow.
You're the Dr. Dre of our generation of
Yeah.
Vietnam. No, it's incredible. I mean, you think about how many people put out videos every day. There are just millions and millions and millions and millions of videos out there on YouTube, and people found yours and it resonated with them. And they started getting tattoos saying hashtag DMCS on their neck, and riding around on their skateboards with hashtag DMCS, and uh, suddenly standing up to Vietnamese authorities by publicly wearing that slogan. And that's huge. It's really huge.
Yeah, and lucky as well. Yeah,
Wow.
I think of the whole timing. It's just the right timing, because we're seeing so many movements around the world. Like in the States, we seeing the Occupy Wall Street.
Hmm.
In Brazil, we seeing libertarian movements. In there was the Spring Arabs movement not
Hmm.
long ago. And in Hong Kong, we have the Yellow Umbrella movement.
Hmm.
And I mean, all of these movements happening around the same time. And with all the crisis in the world, with the crisis in Europe, and then ISIS and all that stuff, it just create a right kind of environment for people in general, and for particularly Vietnamese people
Yeah,
to
it feels
focus
like,
more on social and political issues. And oh,
yeah.
hold on, I have to open the door real quick.
Oh.
All right.
So we can see whoever the guest is who's arrived. Do they
Yeah,
know they're on a live
it's my
stream?
first. Okay. Where was I?
So, I mean, you talked a lot about education and difference in the United States. So are you? I mean, what are your feelings about going home now? You've got about 7 months ish, 8 months. Is that correct in the United States?
Yeah, until next July, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to. I think we have to really, you know, because I was thinking that it could be sooner. It could be sooner than that. It could might be, like a couple of months later than that. We never know. Because I kind of feel like it's coming. The moment is coming really, really close to that moment where it's just become right for me to go back.
Yeah.
But I still have to, I cannot really decide on that. Maybe, if I go back during the time that Obama come visit Vietnam, it might be a better timing for, raising awareness about the whole situation. But it could also be another case where, the prime minister of Vietnam right now makes some kind of decision about the whole country. Because the way I see Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng right now, he's trying to become the next Putin.
Right.
He's trying to become the Putin of Vietnam. So I would just have to see what the policies he's gonna make, and what changes he's gonna bring about, to
Mm-hmm.
see the whole picture before
Yeah.
making my decision.
Now, we've talked a lot about what happens inside prisons and about brainwashing in schools and everything. What is everyday life like for the average Vietnamese person? I mean, what sort of infringement upon your freedoms do you experience in everyday life? How does it compare to what you've experienced since being in Oklahoma? Just tell me a little bit about how that is.
Uh, well, we don't have freedom of speech at all when
Right.
when you're talking about because coding, I think his name is Ron Paul,
Mm-hmm.
right? So freedom of speech is not about talking about the weather. It's about control, like controversial issues.
Mm-hmm.
So people talking about the government, or talking about the China, or talking about the Paracel Islands, those are conversations that people don't dare to talk about because it's so sensitive.
Wow.
So like if people just say DMCS on their Facebook page or something like that, you will see comments saying that, hey, watch out, you better watch out, maybe you go to prison, or something like that. And there's a lot of fear, and it's just amazing how the communist government can impose that much fear on the people,
Right.
you know
What can
and
people do to combat that? I mean, do you have any ideas that could help people deal with that sort of fear or being in that sort of environment?
well, I mean, they just have to get more people, to the
Yeah.
point that the police cannot arrest them anymore, because there's simply too many of them.
Hmm.
They just have to, and I think that point is coming. It's There's more and more people realizing the wrongdoings of the communist government, and it's just kind of multiply day by day. It's really like a zombie movement, because
Yeah.
zombie, they just kind of multiply.
I mean, do you still
So
feel that the people in Vietnam just don't realize how bad things are there because they don't have free access to internet and to information? Are they just unaware that life is different elsewhere?
um yeah, of course, it's because of not having access to certain web page, because the government will block all the web pages that they feel harmful
Right.
towards them. And also because they have this kind of techniques of using the media to distract people, the same
Uh,
way that the government in the I mean, the corporations in the US
Well,
is using.
government as well. I
Right,
mean,
yeah. Both, yeah,
they,
they sleep together. So
oh,
anyway,
exactly.
but I mean, in Vietnam, it, they also an expert in doing that, and people
Hmm.
just kids, especially adolescent, you know, people, they don't pay no attention to any of those political or social issues. All they care about is, you know, what songs or who's dating who and stuff like that. It's just kind of sad to see a whole generation like that.
So there, you found that the your generation of people in Vietnam, they currently are just disinterested in fighting this. Is it? I mean, does that come from fear, or does that come from um, just a lack of exposure to the ability to talk about these ideas? I mean, that sort of superficiality, I
There
could
are
see
different
it's
levels.
coming from both.
Yeah, I mean, there are different levels. They're like, first, you don't know, and you don't care, and then
Right,
after you get through that level, you become like, you care, but you don't dare to speak,
right.
and then after that, you know, you dare to speak, and then you have to deal with all the problems that came with speaking up,
Hmm.
and then there's so many different steps to take if you really want to go down that road of, you
Right.
know, fighting the truth and the freedom of speech in Vietnam. But not only is freedom of speech, also freedom of religion and freedom of
Right, and they really target
yeah,
religion in Vietnam as well.
everything is control. Everything is being oppressed by the government, and there's so many dumb laws
Mhm.
in the book, and you know, people don't really go by the law anymore. They go by the bribings,
Right.
and you know, bribes happening everywhere, not only, you know, in police stations, but also, you know, on every corner of the street where there's police, you know, just arresting people for no reason,
Right.
and um, also in hospitals where, you know, patients have to bribe doctors to get better services, and you know,
Oh
in
gosh.
schools where, you know, students have to bribe teachers to get better grades, and
Wow.
you know, in airports where you have to bribe the custom to, you know, just to go through the just to cut through the waiting, because they gonna make you wait if you don't bribe. And
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
that bribing culture go deep into every corner
Yeah, it
of the
changes
Vietnamese
everything.
society, and when you live in that culture for so long, and plus I'm not talking about just the bribing, I'm talking about also crimes and stuff, crime rates and street crimes like robbery, or you know, just just stealth, or just drugs, or just prostitution. I mean, all kind of crimes happening, and the police are all involved in that. I know police.
Yeah.
I know certain police are selling drugs because nobody's gonna catch them.
Hmm.
You know, because they have the power of authority, and then they also have the power of the money, because police in Vietnam really rich, you
Yeah.
know, with all the bribes they get. So it's
I mean,
just
you see countries like Vietnam, and it's devastating. It's absolutely horrendous what's going on there, and in other communist countries as well. This culture of corruption and bribery, and in non-communist countries as well. I mean, it's happening everywhere. I do look at some of the more free nations, and I do worry about trends. I do um, worry a lot when I see that freedoms are slowly disappearing. Currently in the US, we have this trend of safe zones at university campuses, where students can go where they don't like hearing other ideas, and people are not allowed to talk about certain ideas that other people find offensive, or and that's worrisome to me, because one of the greatest things about some of the more free nations in the world is this ability to have discourse about ideas, to learn different points of view, to discuss things. I mean, that's how we grow, right?
right.
And when you see ideas being shut down, especially on university campuses, that really worries me a lot. Have you, I mean, it's probably like black and white for you, seeing the difference between education in the United States and Vietnam, and you probably see it as being a million times better in a place like the US. But do you still recognize certain trends or worry about the direction that the US might be going in if they continue along this path of taking away people's ability to voice their opinion?
Uh, I totally agree that the U.S. education system could be much, much better. And I don't really believe in like a standardized system. I
Mhm.
believe that, you know, at a young age, kids should be, more like homeschool
Right.
because, the parents can, cater more to their needs and to their wants and to their particular skills that they want to develop, and that will create a more of a diverse workforce in the future
Oh
if you look
yeah.
at it the long term, and that's better for society. If you create like a standardized system, you're gonna kill every bright ideas that have that
Right.
have not had the chance to develop.
Mhm.
So it's just and it sounds like a dream word, like I'm too much of a utopian, but I do believe that we are striving for that society in some way, and I
Yeah.
see I see I see certain trends as well of people who are worried more about the the harmony of their family life, and
Right.
comparing to the work life, and more people are quitting their jobs right now and move off the grid, and
Yeah.
I kind of see that uh that trend is like on one way the world's really getting worse, and on one way there's certain part of the world's getting
Yeah.
better. So
Well, I mean, there are different things that are getting really exciting, right? I think that
yeah,
technology is giving us a lot of tools that enable people to live their own lives a little bit more,
yeah,
mesh internet networks, which can enable people to use the internet to connect with other computers without necessarily going through a centralized node. So that's exciting. Things like Bitcoin, incredibly exciting tool that again enables people to live their life with more freedom. I read recently, talking about people going off the grid, I read that in Colorado, apparently, they're making it illegal for people to camp out on their own land on private property, which is just like mind
that's
blowing
crazy,
to
huh?
me. People who get camper vans who don't want to be connected to main pipes or the electrical grid or any of that, and who have their own generators, and now the government's coming in and saying, oh, no, you can't have your own stuff, not even on your own land. So that's scary. But I think as long as technology stays one step ahead of government control, then people have options, and that's all we need. We just need options.
But then again, if you keep going like that, it's always like you're chasing your tails. You always have somebody who will eventually catch up with you in terms of technology, and
Yeah, yeah, of
you,
course.
you never know if they catch up with you or they already much ahead of you.
Well,
You
I
know what I'm
mean,
saying? Like,
honestly, I know that you can never know, but I'm always going to put my money on the private sector innovating faster than government monopolies and bureaucracies. That's
right, right.
definitely where my money is going. But you're right. I mean, it's uncertain, and we're constantly living in this state where we're being chased by something, and that's not ideal. Ideally, we would all have freedom. We would have freedom of choice. As long as we don't hurt each other, we should just be left to live our own lives, right? But until that happens, until we get rid of centralized control and power, then we have to find ways. We have to, choose a system of agorism. We have to go around, circumvent some of these regulations, and claim back power, pry it from the the grasp of government. It's not ideal, but I do get excited when I see certain technologies that can enable that sort of freedom. I mean, have you seen much of a mesh network arising in Vietnam for internet usage? Um,
What do you mean by like by
so I
mesh
mean
network?
that that rather than being connected by central nodes, you have a decentralized internet structure that can't be shut down by a government. Have you seen things like that arise?
Uh, on that part, we really have to work on that part because Vietnamese people right now they are being totally dependent on the government when you talk about the internet.
Hmm.
That's why it's so hard for the for the people to really search information because any website that got newly created for just a couple of days and then the government
Right,
shut it down.
right.
So
So
it's
I
had a little only on YouTube and Facebook that the government cannot shut down. So
right.
most of the information coming through is Facebook and YouTube. But
Oh
then
wow, so they haven't shut down YouTube and Facebook.
well, when they because they enter into some kind of agreements with Google and and Mark Zuckerberg kind of came to Vietnam one time to talk to the government to
Hmm.
lift the ban on Facebook because Vietnam actually banned Facebook for a while.
Wow.
And Mark
So
Zuckerberg
that's
came and
a
then he
tool.
sorts things out and then now the government doesn't ban it anymore.
Wow.
But then you know they have certain other tricks. They would just slow down the bandwidth so that it may really take a really long time for
Yeah.
people to go to internet those days. Whenever they deem that, oh, there are certain waves of dissident information right now on Facebook, we gotta slow the internet down and then it's just slow it down.
Yeah.
So they really got the upper hand when you talk about internet connection in Vietnam, and the people really have to work on.
So perhaps figuring out a decentralized internet structure in
Yeah,
Vietnam would be the next step. If if people in America wanted to help, or people in other countries around the world wanted to help some of these more oppressed people, then that might be something they'd be interested in helping develop.
right.
I hear also a lot about USB drives where people will upload Wikipedia onto a USB drive and drop them by parachutes into countries. And when you have things like that, when you have people sending in bulk amounts of information, does it pose a risk for the people who then take that USB stick in Vietnam, stick it in their computer, and now have access to things that have been made illegal, sites or information that have been made illegal? Would you say that that's a dangerous thing for people in other countries to be doing?
Uh, it depends on where you're from, which country you're from.
Hmm.
And well, I actually think that that's a really interesting idea to but then it's an expensive idea. You gotta have money
Hmm.
for airplanes and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But maybe drones. Maybe can we do drones?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea to just drop USB on certain villages and let people find out information like that. But
Yeah.
of course, there's gonna be a lot of cognitive dissonance as at first for the
Of
people
course.
for those
Of
people.
course.
Yeah.
And do you have the government, I mean, do they warn people against Western ideas or ideas that come from outside of Vietnam and say, well, don't believe it, they're all liars, they're
Yeah,
feeding you
they do that
rubbish?
all the time.
Yeah.
It's funny because talking about just culture in general, Vietnam is really catching up with the Western kind of culture.
Right.
Like I mean, kids like me, I grow up listening to hip hop from the West Coast and the East Coast of America.
Yeah.
So you know, I kind of grow up with that same kind of mentality, and the way I talk even got a lot influenced by rap music,
Hmm.
certain word choice or you know all that stuff. So and I'm not the only one. I mean, everybody else is now listening to whatever Americans kids are listening to, and not only about music but movies. The only movie shows in um, most of the movies shows in cinemas are American movies,
Right.
Hollywood movies. So and the food, McDonald's just came in and all that. I mean, McDonald coming in is not a good thing, but I'm talking about, I'm looking at it from a culture
Right,
perspective, and I think like on all that we accept and we welcome the westernized and American culture, but then politically the prime minister still go on, and saying that the American were our enemy and we have to be
right,
careful with them, and that kind of stuff. When even the prime minister's daughter right now is in California, and she got
right.
she got
Yeah, exactly. I don't
yeah,
want the choices for all of the rest of the people in Vietnam, but I want it for my family.
yeah. And it's just crazy when you see
Yeah.
that kind of hypocrisy going on.
It's like
um
Obama with the school choice, how he takes away voucher programs, but then sends his children off to private schools where they can get a better education. But let's deny it for everyone else in DC, you know?
well, I mean, Obama could have done a better job, but um I still kind of like him, because okay, so this
That's a
this
debate for
president is so
another day,
cool,
nah.
like one of the coolest guy I ever seen, and like since he's a lame duck right now, he's going off. He's like he's just saying really funny stuff that whenever I watch certain videos of him, I like this guy's cool as hell. Uh,
Well, you and I need to put together a rap battle where you can talk about Obama and I'll do Ron Paul. We'll fight out
right.
the ideas then. I mean, we're running out of time here, so probably only enough time for just a couple more questions. Um, I guess I'm really curious about the what brought you over to the United States, whether it was easy for you to get into the country, how that opportunity for study arose for you here, and what it was like entering the United States, coming from a position of having so much brainwashing and propaganda filling your upbringing. So how did you get over to the United States to study here?
um okay, so it's also a pretty long story, but I will sum it up that um I kind of have a pretty good music career a while back in Vietnam,
Yeah.
until I do a certain performance in Hanoi for the U.S. ambassador, and
Oh,
that performance I performed, me and my friend Huawei. Huawei is also another rapper, pretty famous in Saigon, and we both perform a song that got lyrics that criticize society and criticize the police. And
mhm.
after that song, everything went bad. Like it's really hard to get permission to release songs, and my manager got afraid, and they fly all the way back to California and
Oh gosh.
abandon us, and you know and all the other stuff that they spying on us. Like they will send just people to look up us, and what a nan Huawei is doing. Are they just releasing more songs against the government and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
It's just hard for me to see a future in the music career,
Yeah.
and I decided that maybe it's time to go expand, to search for something new. And then
Yeah.
I I spent 3 years in Singapore before and got a bachelor
Oh, okay.
degree in Singapore already. But then I want to explore the States, so I go to the United States, and my parents kind of support that idea, and they kind of sponsor me. So
That's great.
yeah, and then
That's an amazing opportunity there. And then when you first arrived in the United States, was it a shock? I mean, Singapore is an amazing place.
right.
Hong Kong and Singapore are number one and two on the Economic Freedom Index, whereas the United States is all the way down on 12th or 13th at the moment. So you came from a place that economically was very free, but culturally was very, very stringent. And then America is culturally a lot more open. So was that a big change for you coming to the United States and experiencing that? And we've only got a very short amount of time, so
Right.
uh,
I would just say this for me, because I have certain preparation already. I already went to Singapore.
yeah,
I got exposed to certain kind of ideas in, like rap music and stuff like that. It kind of prepared me culturally for
yeah,
America. But for other kids who just came straight from Vietnam to the States, and they don't have any kind of knowledge about the culture, American culture at all. It will be a big shock, I
Yeah,
believe.
definitely.
And you know, I hang
Well,
out with, you know, kids like that every day. They are
mhm.
also Vietnamese just like me and on campus, and that, you know, I would not say that they are totally like um unconnected with the American culture, but I would say that they kind of build themselves a wall
Yeah,
because, you
right.
know,
Bit
they
disconnected because it's not what they're used to. We're probably gonna have to cut it short there because we've run out of time. But nah, this has been an incredible interview. You are a wonderful, courageous man who is doing wonderful things to promote freedom in Vietnam. And I wish your music career all the best. And I wish you all the best on your return to Vietnam if that happens. And thank you so much for coming on here tonight and talking to people about your experience and talking about your music.
Thank you, Naomi. It
Cool.
was really nice talking to you.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming and watching. And if you wanted to send this interview to anyone, then please do send out the link and people can watch this later. Well, thanks so
Bye
much,
bye.
Na.